Hi there, welcome back to Diamond Roost Studios. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a bright bay model horse. This is going to be a multiple part series, and in this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to create the base coat as well as the skin. Okay, so before you begin, make sure you have your model primed or prepped with gesso. This way the oils have a nice base to go down on, and that way they stick. Without further ado, let's get right into this tutorial. Okay, so step one is adding the first layer of oils. So I take a piece of tinfoil and I'm going to be using the color Burnt Sienna from the Gamblin 1980 series, as well as the color I don't quite remember, so I'm going to pop it up on the screen, and I'm putting those on the tinfoil in about that amount. And here I'm using a Princeton angle shader. I believe it is the 1/4 inch. Yes, nope, the 3/4 inch angle shader, and I'm going to mix these two colors together in kind of a sweeping fashion, kind of going back and forth, trying to get it as smooth as possible while getting the perfect shade of color. Now I'm going for kind of a reddish orange here, as this is going to be the base for our bright bay. And so now we are going to start applying this on our prepped model. So I'm starting here at the groove of the neck, and I'm working my way down the model in kind of a feathery motion. And as you can see here, just kind of taking my time, just kind of carefully going and trying to keep it as smooth as possible. Once you have coated the entire model in the oil layer, you are going to want to let it dry. Usually oils take about 2 to 3 days to dry completely. Okay, on to step 2. So for this step, you're basically going to be repeating the previous step and just do it as many times as possible to get an opaque color. Here I've done this about 2 times before this, and here I'm just showing you again. I'm just going to go over the model again, and I believe for a couple layers I just used the Burnt Sienna and foregone, I don't know, I just didn't use the other color. And so that's what's happening here. On to step 3, which is the pastel base. I really like using pastels on top of oils to add depth, and the base is basically going to be kind of creating a nice pretty much base for the rest of your shading to sit on and to give it a little bit more of a smoother feel to the oil. So here I'm using a pumpkin colored shade, and I'm shaving the pastel block with an X-Acto knife. Please be careful, these are very sharp. And I'm just lightly scraping it down the side of the pastel block until I get my desired amount. And I guess I wanted a little bit more here, because you do use quite a bit, especially with a bigger model, you're going to want to use a lot more. And now I'm just going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to be taking this kind of fluffy brush. I'm not entirely certain what brand it is, but just kind of like a round brush. And I'm going to be rubbing this all over the model in kind of a circular motion to get a nice smooth layer down on the model. Okay, so now that layer 1 is done, we're going to darken it up a little bit using a dark brown block of pastels. And I'm just shaving in a little bit into our pumpkin shade from before, and I'm going to be mixing this with a flat brush. I'm not entirely certain what brand again, but just kind of a big fluffy flat brush. I'm just kind of gently mixing these two colors together to create a darker kind of light chestnut shade, I guess. It's kind of a chestnutty brown shade. And now I'm just going to rub this all over the model, and I have not matte sprayed in between yet. Just kind of doing again, kind of using a little bit less circular motions and more of like a sweeping motion like with the oils. The idea here is just to coat the entire model in this color. On to step 4, which is shading. Shading is where you can get really creative with your model, and here I have some pictures of where to shade and where not to shade, and where you can highlight, and I use it on the full model and a medallion. Okay, so for shading, we're going to want to darken the color we already had, which was that pumpkin and brown. So I'm adding a little bit of gray in here, and I'm mixing using a different flat brush. And I'm mixing them together to create a darker brown color. And here I'm just going to go where the pictures told me to shade in. And basically that's like the cheeks, not the cheeks, around the cheeks in that like groove area, and basically right underneath any muscles or prominent parts of the horse, I guess. And pretty much just continue with that until you have reached your desired color. I usually try to go for a pretty dark color. And now on to step 5, which is skin. And so for this, I'm going to be taking, I believe I took that same gray shade and I shaved down quite a bit of it. And this took many, many, many layers. And basically I'm going to be taking that same flat brush that we used for the shading, and I'm going to be dipping it in, getting a little bit on there, and doing the nose and the eye of the horse. You would also do the underbelly and underneath the tail if you were using a full scale model. Okay, on to highlighting, which again, we are going to be using those pictures that I showcased earlier and basically highlight where it is yellow and shade where it is blue. And here I'm using a, I would say goldenrod yellow color, and then a bit of a, what color am I going to use? That same pumpkin shade, and I'm going to mix these two colors together to create the highlight. And so here you can see I'm going to highlight where it was labeled to highlight on the photograph, and just kind of going in and delicately applying it. It's okay if you get a little bit in between, and I have matte sprayed the horse. I'm just kind of going over the cheeks and just trying to give it a brighter color. And now I'm going to be taking that darker pumpkin shade we had before, and I'm going to be going over the areas because I realized it was a little bit too yellow for my taste. So now here I'm just going back and forth between shading and highlighting and shading and highlighting and shading and highlighting until I reach the desired coloration. And I actually ended up going in and matte spraying a couple times, seeing how it looked, and then shading, highlighting again. I did add more skin kind of coloration, and just kind of going in, and I did a lot of layers of this because it was very hard to get the gray to be completely opaque. And here's the final result. Thank you so much for watching. This is episode 1 of this potentially 3 to 4 part series, and this is what the final result is. The background is not quite done, but that's another episode all in and of itself.